Welcome to the Mitt TV podcast, House Factors, where we delve into all things related to the ever-changing world of real estate. I am your host, Michelle Milam, a seasoned professional with over a decade of experience in marketing, design, and sales. As a top 100 realtor in Macomb County, Michigan, I have a track record of excellence, having earned multiple awards in sales, marketing, and customer satisfaction. Our mission here at House Factor is to provide you, our listeners, with real-world insight and practical tips for managing your most valuable asset, your home. Whether you're a current homeowner or aspire to be one in the future, this podcast is for you. We'll cover a range of engaging topics from industry trends to day-to-day challenges to help you navigate the complex world of homeownership. So stay tuned and join the conversation as we explore all things that go into owning a home. Good afternoon. Welcome to our podcast edition here. Today, our guests are two industry leaders that are very important in the real estate sales. We have Sanar Elsan, and he is from Goosehead Insurance. Sanar is the owner and principal at Goosehead Insurance, a local insurance agency, and I'll get to the bottom of why we chose Sanar to be on our panel today.
Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
Oh, thank you. And then our other industry professional is Aaron Jackson, and Aaron is owner-operator of Certified Professional Inspectors. And Aaron is a home inspector, and again, super integral in the buying and selling of your properties. Whether you're buying your property or even selling your property, believe it or not, you could use an inspector at both ends, correct?
Yes, it is comprehensive property inspection.
Ooh, I see. I'm learning. So Aaron's a former teacher. He's always using that teaching moment, right?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, I love it. I love it. I need to learn. That's what we're here about. I know a thing or two about these items, but when I bring you guys in, it's because I don't know everything for sure. And I'm hoping that, Sanar can tell us a little bit more about his industry and as well as you, Aaron, because especially when you're buying that first house. And I always go back to the first time buyer because we assume everybody after their first house kind of knows these things. But I've had something that just happened recently with my own child buying a house. And I said, okay, honey, you've budgeted for everything, right? Yes, I did. Okay, what about homeowners insurance? And he literally said to me, what's that? And you think as a parent, you've done a good job. You've prepared these children and they're ready to go off, but he had no idea. Do you find that out ever?
Most people don't know what the details are on a home insurance policy or don't even know where to start to get one, especially first-time home buyers.
Okay, and there's some gray area where some people think, well, I don't want insurance. I don't need insurance. Can you tell us why you need insurance?
Well, if you're getting any type of loan on any type of property, whether it's a commercial property or just a residential, you are required to have insurance because the bank that's giving you the money to purchase this will not allow you not to have insurance. And if you do decide that you don't want to pay for your insurance, they'll charge you for insurance on your monthly mortgage, and it'll be a lot more and a lot less coverage as well too.
Oh, and I'm sure they'll find quite the rate for you, right? And again, with the first-time buyer, we go back to the scenario when I say to them, okay, who do you want to use for your home inspection? And they look at me with a blank stare, which I love, and they say, well, we don't need a home inspection. And I say, well, you got two choices. You can sign this piece of paper that said you refused your home inspection, or you can have a home inspection, because I'm not going to be in court one day when you realize you made a mistake by not getting a home inspection. Have you ever seen somebody be in those shoes?
So I do get referrals from many realtors, and I had a phone call one time. The realtor gave my information out. The lady declined the inspection, and one day we had a good rainstorm, and in her basement it looked like a water fountain from water coming in. So the realtor and I talked, and the person who bought the house said, this is not the house I bought. And the realtor's like, well, I mean, you chose to waive the inspection. I gave you the number of my guy, and he probably could have helped you out with this.
Oh my goodness.
I thought once you get the home, that's it. So people can still come after you if you don't get that waiver inspection signed, huh?
Oh, yes, for me. I did have a person try to sue me before because they elected not to get the home inspection. And thank goodness, because I'm probably lazy clearing out my text messages, I had it all in writing that she didn't want the inspection. Lo and behold, she did try to bring action, which it never went anywhere because I had the proof that she declined it. But nice. Now I know better. Get the form signed that cover my butt, just like insurance, just like inspections. We need forms that cover ourselves. When it comes to an inspection and it comes to insurance, do your two industries overlap at all? Have you ever had to work with an insurance agent before?
So I don't work with an insurance agent. However, what I find can oftentimes, influence what the insurance agent does. So for example, there's certain defects, especially on older homes, built in 1930s when they used to use knob and tube wiring. Oftentimes those things would be put in the attic. If knob and tube wiring is in contact with insulation, especially one that's made from fiberglass, there is a chance it can catch on fire. I've been in houses where the attic was on fire from that. So, oftentimes, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but insurance companies really try to shy away from that.
I don't remember the last time I wrote a homeowner's policy with knob and tube wiring that was approved by a home insurance company, and I work with multiple carriers, so
What the?
the
Yeah.
the biggest issues you're gonna have is with the older homes, like Aaron said, just because, correct me if I'm wrong, but you mentioned this before that sometimes they might not all be up to code, but it's all about safety, and knob and tube wiring is not safe at all.
Yeah, so a home inspector is not a code inspector. We're not issuing certificates of occupancy from a municipality. What we do is we look for safety and functionality. And, is the house going to be functional and safe for the homeowner? And that's really the bulwark of it. It is not a silver bullet. Home inspectors were there for 3.5 hours. If you get a good one, some are there and out in 90 minutes. And, we're trying to get a general overview of what the house is going to be for you. And if there's any kind of major defects of the house, the plumbing, the electrical, the roof, the foundation, major systems like that. So you have an idea of what you're buying. And if there are things that are found on there, then we can use that to help them understand what's going on. You can talk to your realtor. Maybe you can get something negotiated, something fixed. But, it is really more of an overview instead of, a very, very, needle and thread type inspection.
That brings up, you had mentioned the code and inspections and such. What if I do buy a home that's, built in the 50s? It's structurally really nice. Aaron comes in, he gives it his blessing. We go forward, and now we've had, God forbid, a fire. Now we have to rebuild the home, but in the 50s, it was done a certain way. The things weren't up to date. Is there something special I need on my policy to make sure that I can build it to today's codes to be able to afford this? Because I know there's been people in Florida with the floods that couldn't build to today's codes.
Great question. Yes, so all insurance carriers have what's called functional replacement cost, which means any home that's built, I think it's prior to 1940, you would have like functional parts, or if they used a certain type of wood back then, like type of wood or whatever material it is at this market, and they would rebuild it to that standard.
Okay, so that makes sense. Now, does everybody get that, or is it something you recommend, or how do I know to ask for it?
It's most of the time it's automatically placed on. If the home's built in 1940, we always add it on, and we make sure that it's required on there. There's no charge for it most of the time. It's just it actually helps the insurance carriers, because then from there, if there's something that is unavailable for them, if a fire did happen, they have the functional replacement cost clause, and they're able to bring something of like to rebuild that property.
Huh, another thing now, I was just thinking, see, I think when you're talking, I'm thinking, and what I'm thinking now is Aaron and I were just in Royal Oak recently, and doing sewer inspections. Sewer came up clean. However, there's a whole pocket that has flooded in Royal Oak before. It was 2014, 2012. Don't quote me on the exact time frame, but many, many blocks flooded. What happens if Aaron comes, house is, clean, sound, hasn't flooded lately. He gives it again the pass. You come in, you write insurance, and now the catastrophic flood that happened in 2014 happens again today. Am I going to be covered?
It depends on the type of coverage you choose at the time of purchasing your policy. So there's two different types of coverage that you can purchase additionally to a homeowner's policy to protect you from water. One would be sewer and water backup discharge. If water does come in from the sewers or from rain, you would have coverage for that. That's provided at 5,000 increments, so you can start at 5,000 and take it all the way up to as much as you want. And then additionally, if there is a catastrophic event like how you're speaking of, there's also flood insurance involved, where $10,000, $15,000 in water backup coverage is not going to cover you if your basement floods all the way up to your living room. So there is flood coverage that would cover your personal contents and the building and stuff of the home.
Okay, so when you got all your insurance, you think you're doing great. Is there something where if my roof leaks, the roof doesn't get replaced, but the damage it makes gets fixed. I've heard something about that before, and I'm not familiar. Can you teach me about that?
Yeah, so insurance is on a per occurrence basis. So if so, an event would have to occur for you to for them to approve a claim on your roof. So, for example, if you have a 15-year-old roof and it just starts to leak, and now you have water in your ceiling, most of the time, insurance carriers are probably going to deny that claim. Reason being is they're going to deem that wear and tear. So insurance carriers will not cover you for wear and tear. They're just going to say this roof has been deteriorating year over year, and insurance companies pay for every report possible. So there's actual companies that drive over homes and take pictures of your roof. So I've had a client who recently made a claim on a roof, and it was denied. And what happened was an engineer went up there and showed where the damages of that particular storm that the client was requesting was at. And then they took aerial pictures and went back for the last 15 years and showed his roof deteriorating year over year. And they denied that claim. But let's say that 15-year-old roof that we're talking about has a tree fall on it. That would be covered because something happened. Or let's say there's a bunch of wind and a windstorm came in and threw off a bunch of shingles. That would cover the roof. But if there's just a leak on an older roof, more than likely they're going to deem that wear and tear. Or what they can do is they can pay you based off of not replacement cost, but based off of the value of the roof. If like half the roof is good, they'll cover the other half.
So depreciation would be factored
Correct.
into that?
That's the word I was thinking of, depreciation.
So Aaron, how do you decide then? You come out, is every roof 15 year and you just say it's no good, or how do you decide? And
So there are a couple of different shingles. We have the old school 3-tab shingles, which are on many houses that are older. Then they have the new architectural shingles, which have more material on them. The older ones lasted about 20 years. The newer ones are about 30 years, and they're not much different in price. So if you ever get a new one, most of the roofing companies now are gonna, offer the architectural shingles. But as far as any defects go with that, or the age of the roof, oftentimes it's a judgment call. Are there still enough granules on the roof? Is there fiberglass that's exposed on there? That can always make the determination. And I've done, 1,500 of these now, so you get an idea of how old the roof is, and the age of it when it's gonna be replaced. Oftentimes it's under 5 years, or this is midlife, or the roof looks newer. So, and it's pretty easy to tell that after a while, but you have to just have the experience and knowledge with that too.
so let's say I paid Aaron every year to come out, check my roof, check my AC, check my furnace. Okay, he diligently every year I get it inspected, I get it signed off, I get it clean, and then lo and behold, I get this roof leak. Am I going to be safe, or you think?
If you get reports, those are the best things for insurance carriers in the event of a claim. Having those inspections are really good. It means you're taking time to make sure you're protecting your property. You're doing this voluntarily. Nobody's asking you to do it. So if you do have reports, and if you have a report where the roof is 15 years old, but it's in really good shape and it is a 30-year shingle, insurance companies might not deny that. And I'm not saying they'll deny every 15-year roof. It'll, just like Aaron said, it's just on a per case basis. So some roofs might be in worse shape than others, and others might be in better shape. I've had a client who had a 27-year-old roof claim get approved. So yeah.
And not all roofs are the same too. If you get a metal roof, it's going to last 50, 80 years. If you have a slate roof, there's roofs that are medieval that are still around. So, I mean, they pretty much last forever. It's stone.
Have you ever inspected a slate roof?
No, I've not. Those houses that have those are generally multi-million-dollar houses, just because the roof is going to be like $100,000 to even put on.
Have you ever inspected a metal roof yet?
Oh yes, of course. And they're
Super expensive.
They're super expensive, but if they're installed correctly, they're going to last a very long time. With a slate roof, you actually have a mason up there with a hammer putting these things the size that they need for that particular section, and then putting 2 holes in there, and they actually hook onto the roof.
Oh my God.
So it is very labor intensive. Every piece is pretty much handmade for that specific spot, And that's why they cost so much money, because you can imagine the time and effort it takes to put that on there.
Sounds like it's a piece of art, actually, at the end of the day, right? It's like a
Hmm.
one-of-a-kind piece of art that is so cool. What is one thing that you are still surprised every day when you inspect a house to find? Like something that just blows your mind. Can't even believe it.
I like, well, not like, but oftentimes homeowners that do their own repairs that have no idea what they're doing. We have handy Dans out there that are doing their own plumbing, their own electrical, and it's pretty easy to spot if it was not done professionally. And anytime I see a house, anytime I recommend a repair, I always say get a licensed professional plumber, electrician, roofer, whatever, because in the long run, it's going to save you money. It is amazing how often a $15 flange piece of flashing could have saved thousands of dollars in repairs. I did a house one time about 8 months ago, and it had a beautiful renovated bathroom, about a year old. But instead of having a proper drain flange where the shower was, they just put a straight PVC pipe, and it kept leaking underneath there. And all the subfloor within an 8-foot area was rotten. And the person buying it said, "How we fix it?" I go, "You have to remove everything from here and then redo it that way, because some of the joists are now rotten too." So whatever money they spent, 20, 30, $40,000 in that bathroom, it was wasted.
That's heartbreaking.
For one, and that piece of plastic cost like $15 at
Whoa.
a big box store.
Well, should I tell them how I really got to know you at a home inspection?
Yeah, please, go ahead.
So, it was kind of like that buyer remorse thing, or seller remorse, realtor remorse. We were so excited. It was in budget for a young couple. So excited. We thought, yes, we've hit a home run here. And like kind of when you go back that next day and you're like, what did I do? So second time we pulled up, I thought, oh dear, this does not look as good as it looked on that sunny day when our hearts were in it. And so I said to Aaron, hold nothing back. Give it to us dirty, because if this is dirty, we need to know. And so it took him about 5 minutes to go in the basement and tell us that, was it the subfloor? Or explain to me, because in your terms, I don't understand.
So the house was older, and it looked like they had an addition on there. And 95%, now about 90% of the home inspection takes place in the basement, because that's where most of the systems are: electrical, plumbing, HVAC. And so where we went to this addition, oftentimes you'll see 2x8s, 2x10s, 2x12s, engineered floor joists, and these are all, very strong there to hold up the floor. And this one was actually held up by 2x4s, which were not even supported by a beam going across. And the client was talking about putting a bathroom up there, and there was a contractor on site too, and we both agreed, if you put a bathroom up here, it's going to fall through. So that was pretty easy to determine.
And that was the best inspection money ever spent, because, you're like, again, it was in budget, it was exciting, and it looked great. And then you think, oh my gosh, there's too much perfume on this. And when you pointed it out, I just about wanted to die. And I'm so thankful that when you use a realtor and when you use the proper channels, we did the inspection period, so there was no harm, no foul, meaning the young couple didn't lose anything. And I think you actually volunteered to give them a discount on their next house that they found.
Yeah, I only charged them half for coming out, and then the second half too. When they get their next house, I only charge them the second half for it. So, I'm eliminating a conflict of interest, because, it would be very easy to say, going to every house and say, this one's bad, and you just keep getting the money. So I have no financial incentive to do that. I'm really here to help people out. The moniker of my company is "We don't inspect, we educate," and that's really the most important part. You have to have the heart of a teacher as a realtor, as a home inspector, because this is where they're going to build their lives at. And so you are part of their most important decision, other than getting married, that they will ever make. And it's the most dynamic financial decision too, because you're spending more money than you have, and it's daunting, and you want them to be happy.
Well said. And you know what? You really opened my eyes that day. And since then, I've, legally, I give out 3 names, and I always put the people on top that I want. And I give out the 3 names, but when I do, I put your name on top, because you really showed me a lot that day. And the client felt great. They felt great paying half. And they also said, we're out shopping right now again. And they said, oh, we got to call Aaron. We got to call Aaron, so they appreciated it. So thank you so much for that. And go ahead.
And oftentimes too, I tell people that, houses are like relationships. Oftentimes you have to go through a couple of bad ones before you even figure out what a good one looks like.
That is so well. Are you sure you don't want to be a realtor too?
I've thought about it.
Oh,
We'll see.
stay in your lane, buddy. There's not enough work for both of us. But and I can honestly say there was a similar story of how I met Sanar because I was drowning my sorrows with my husband one day out and talking about our son who had just gotten in the umpteenth car accident and couldn't believe how much our car insurance was going to cost. And Sanar leaned over to me and said something to the effect, I'm not trying to eavesdrop, but we're sitting 2 inches from each other and I'm an insurance agent. It sounds like you should be going D D D D D. And I'm like, really? No one's educated us on that. No one's told us that before. And he said, again, I'm not trying to overstep, but if you share your information, I'll see what I can do. And boy, he built a whole portfolio that took care of my son, saved us thousands of dollars per year. Then you went on to earn our home business. Then you went on to earn every client of mine's business that I meet. I mean, I cannot say enough. Growing up, we were also always taught your doctor was important in your life, your insurance agent was important in your life, your lawyer was important in your life. And nowadays, when they come with this where you can buy everything online, you forget how important that individual of an insurance agent is. Again, I have a couple looking and they said, well, our work gives us a discount on insurance. And I said, oh, great, your work owns an insurance company? And they said, no, we just get a discount. And I said, well, it's got to be a pretty heavy discount if you're going to go from somebody that you can put eyeballs on locally here. You two guys are in the field. You two guys are here on the job. So we miss that nuance nowadays, that having a person that can serve their client being on the job.
It's very important. And when it comes to insurance, nobody ever thinks about the worst case scenario until the worst case scenario has occurred. And then from there, they're shuffling around like, what coverage do I have here? What coverage do I have there? What we try to do more than anything is educate the client on what they're purchasing and what they're getting, because if they don't know what they're getting, then when something occurs, they're going to blame you for not having what they may have needed or wanted because you didn't bring that into their attention.
So what's the number one mistake that people make when they're buying their homeowners insurance?
I would say trying to insure the home for the amount they purchased it for. That's everybody's thought process is, oh, I'm buying it for $450. Let me purchase it for $450. Let me insure it for $450. Well, we have to take into consideration, insurance carriers are not looking based off of what your house is, what your house costs on the market. They're looking at replacement costs. If God forbid your home were to burn down, how much would it cost to rebuild that home in today's market? So that $450,000 home that you're purchasing might cost a lot more than that to rebuild if something were to happen, especially in this market with inflation these days.
I need to look at my insurance policy now.
Oh boy.
I didn't know that.
Oh, I'm teaching the teacher. That's wonderful. How about this? I had a young couple whose dad came to the showings. We like the dads. And they said, we want to live really close to a fire department because we're going to save so much money on insurance. Is that a thing?
Yeah.
Come on.
Living close to a fire department is a discount. Living close to a fire hydrant is a discount. Living close to a police station is a discount. All these things factor. So the biggest cost when it comes to home insurance is location. Location is the biggest factor when it comes to determining a rate. And then, you have your age of your roof, age of the home. Obviously, like that's just the home part of it. There's also like your personal information as far as like credit score goes and all that stuff. But biggest thing would be location. So to answer your question, yes.
You just touched on my next idea, this credit score. So it matters, your credit score matters when you get insurance?
Yeah, so it's not necessarily a credit score. They have probably 90 different factors on what they determine the score to be, but credit is a part of it. There's also like your claim history, and they take all that stuff and that's how they get you a rate.
And what about household alarms if I have an alarm?
Yeah, alarms are discounts. If you're taking extra precaution like adding an alarm to your water backup coverage in your basement, that can be a discount as well. Security cameras. Gated communities get discounts. Automatic water shutoff valves, which are really big these days. I recommend to a lot of home buyers is that's the biggest thing where you can kind of cut away thousands of dollars in losses if you have an automatic water shutoff valve. And these days with technology, that can be on your phone. So if there's ever anywhere in the home where there's like a leak and the pressure of the water kind of is lower than what the shutoff valve has, it'll notify you, and then you'll be able to know where the leak is and it'll indicate you, and you can stop a big claim,
I have never heard of
big
that.
loss.
Do you give backups? Excuse me. Do you give discounts for backup sump pumps as well?
Yeah, for sure.
So whenever somebody has a sump pump on there, which basically removes the groundwater away from the foundation,
Yeah.
if they just have a single one, I always recommend get a backup. And I learned this the hard
Battery
way.
backup.
Battery backup, not a Venturi backup, which is water driven. Learned this the hard way in 2019 on Thanksgiving. I had about a quarter inch of water in my basement. I got the pump working, but it took a while to dry it out. Luckily, I had a dehumidifier, some fans, and my daughter was just out of diapers, so I used the diapers, which are ultra absorbent, and I had it cleaned up within a few hours. But I'm glad I caught it when I did because it could have been much worse.
Yeah.
Holy. Okay. So what type of person do you call to do this tune off the water thing?
Usually a general contractor would be somebody to contact to be able to do it, I believe.
Yeah, probably more along the lines of a plumber, but
Plumber, I'm sorry.
that would
yes.
that sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay, it sounds like my next phone call after I, order dinner tonight because I don't cook is to get me a plumber to come over and do that. That sounds great and awful all at the same time. Do you have that? The
For
water turn off?
I do not. I'm gonna look into it now
Okay.
too. It's gonna be a newer thing also.
It is.
Generally with what I do is that if it works and it's functional, it's not a problem. But there's always recommendations that we can give them to how to maintain stuff, and that's something that I'll definitely look into more. And then I might start saying, hey, it's a good idea to have this because, and then it can help with your insurance.
Especially like when we get an inspection report and we see that a home has had a history of water claims. That automatic water shutoff valve can be the difference between them charging you an extra, $1,000 on that home insurance because it's more susceptible to water damage than not.
And sometimes too with your sewer system, you can get a backwater valve too, which the valve is only opens in one certain direction. So if there is a bunch of water coming back, it'll actually close shut and then prevent that water from coming in, or at least slow it down significantly. So hopefully the pressure is relieved and won't go into your basement too.
Or second home people, they should
Yeah.
have it, no, hands down, right? Definitely.
For sure.
So what about when we talk about second home with insurance? Let's say you get a second home, can you get insured on both, or is it like a tax where you can only have primary residence on one?
So insurance companies do allow you to have secondary home insurance. A lot of people, especially in the great state of Michigan, people have homes up north that they go to seasonally. Insurance carriers are they're gonna want to know how many days out of the month or how many days out of the year you plan on being there. What precautions are you taking to protect the home while you're not there? Do you have an automatic water shutoff valve for your water issues? Do you have security cameras in case there's a break-in? Age of the roof obviously is always going to matter. And then location. How far is a fire department from you? How far is a police station? Especially when you get into the more rural areas, there's in those areas there are volunteer fire departments. So imagine if something were to occur, how long is it going to take for that fire department to arrive compared to like being in city of Clinton Township or Shelby Township where there's a fire department like every couple miles.
So what if I move out of my house? Do I need to keep homeowners insurance on it if I rent my house out?
You need to change your homeowner's insurance to a dwelling fire policy to protect yourself because from there, the insurance carrier needs to make sure they're rating you properly. If you're not living in that home is being rented out to somebody else. It's a totally different policy. And me and Aaron were just talking about that. I had a situation where a client had a homeowner's policy that was not insured with me. It was insured with his prior agent. And that agent never switched his homeowner's policy to a landlord policy. Client had a fire in the home. Luckily, the insurance carrier is doing the right thing by paying out because obviously it wasn't the homeowner's mistake. And yeah.
Oh my God.
But it could have went totally different. They could have went into litigation.
Yes.
The insurance company could have been kind of, sticklers on wanting to pay out, and it would have been a bigger mess. But luckily, they did the right thing.
Another thing about when you get a pool. Am I supposed to call you and tell you when I get a pool then? Trampoline pools, I heard that's bad for insurance, so I figure we just don't tell you, right?
You never.
Trampolines make good sales in a storm.
Oh.
You always want to let us know any type of risks out there. So like having a pool is important because if you're having family over and a kid slips and falls, you might be open to liability there if they would want to make a claim on your homeowner's insurance. And if you're not informing your insurance agent on these changes, and they're in the dark, then you might be in a tough situation. Biggest thing when it comes to pools are slides and diving boards. For the most part, I don't see too many people having diving boards and slides in their pools anymore.
Right.
As long as you have a fence around your pool and there's no slide and diving board, you should be okay.
And would you buy a trampoline knowing what you know in life and being an insurance agent?
um, I would probably steer away. I grew up on trampolines. They're great. They're fun, but you make sure you have a net around it. Some insurance carriers will require a net, and if if you end up wanting to make a claim, I've seen in the past. I've been doing this for so long that I've seen insurance carriers try to get aerial pictures, making sure that there's been a net year over year
Oh boy.
on that at that location because they indicated that there was.
So my next question, the big old dog. Do you insure houses with dogs every breed? Or you have...
Love dogs. Oh yeah, of course.
Oh, I met you at we've gone to dog fundraisers together. That's right. I forget about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all the time. Yeah. So dogs are important to have to indicate to your insurance agent. Some breeds are a little bit tougher with certain carriers. Bull mastiffs, Rottweilers, pit bulls. Not to say that there's anything wrong with these dogs, but they just tend to get that like stereotype of being more aggressive dogs. As long as your dog doesn't have a bite history for the most part, and you've had them for a long time, no insurance carriers aren't going to be too tough about it. If your dog does have a bite history, they might kind of give you a hard time about it. But you also just want to let your insurance agent know in case there is a dog bite. They will protect you as long as they know. And for the most part, if you just got a dog 3 months ago and you forgot to indicate to your insurance agent, they're not gonna just deny your claim because you didn't let them know.
Okay, so circling back, Goosehead. Is my insurance say Goosehead? What does my insurance say?
So Goosehead Insurance is the agency that is providing you with the service. We're an independent brokerage. I don't want to say brokerage because we don't charge fees, but we're an independent agency, which means we're able to shop the market, navigate through the market, and see who's giving you the best rate possible in the market.
That was what I wanted to hear. All right. And so back to Aaron now. How did your background? Why home inspections? Where did this all come from?
So, growing up my entire life, I've been swinging a hammer, doing my own DIY stuff, making sure I knew what I was doing before I did it. I've even raised barns before. I'm a former teacher. I taught for 10 years, and I decided that I wanted to be my own boss, venture out, start my own company. And I looked at different options, and home inspection became the one that I chose. I brought my background as teaching, from teaching to be able to translate and then help homeowners understand what it is they're buying. So really, I got into home inspections because I still wanted to teach. I'm just teaching people about their houses now and not economics or history or sociology or psychology or public speaking or everything else that I taught throughout my career, which was quite a bit. So, it definitely translates well. And as I tell people now, I have a master's degree to crawl around crawl spaces. So it works out.
So, by judging by the smile when you tell the story, this is the career you enjoy though the most.
It is one I enjoy the most because teaching has a lot of impact on people. But when you can help people, build their lives together, maybe even more of an impact. And that's kind of where I'm coming from with that too.
Yeah, I can tell it shows. And both of you have always been available at the drop of a hat. New clients come your way. You're always trying to make it work. I hope that people that hear you today will go and Google your names and look at some information and realize what great assets you are to the whole home ownership. And Sonaro also does autos. So there's that to add. And I think you get a discount if you do autos with homes together.
Correct. Auto, home, life, commercial insurance. So we specialize in all of it.
That's fantastic. And Aaron, I can't thank you enough for everything you've done for our young clients and hope that, again, your information will be on our website and we'll get to the next level of teaching the next clientele how to purchase their house with little or no stress, if possible.
And also I give discounts to first-time home buyers.
Oh, that's right. I forgot to say that.
Try to help them out a little financially too.
And you provide those books,
Provide
book you
those
give?
books.
Yeah. Sonar, can you offer any discounts to our listeners today?
So by law, as an insurance agent,
Yes.
the most I'm able to offer anybody for a referral or a policy, I believe, is $10.
I actually thought it was a cup of coffee or
Or
the
maybe
value
a
of a
cup of
cup of coffee.
Yeah, yep,
'Cause
yep.
believe it or not, before I was a realtor, which I still am licensed in title, I have a title agency. And again, I think we take similar tests for insurance
Correct.
yeah, they just pound on you in that industry, but
Yeah.
it's still a lot of fun and it's definitely needed. And when you look at the fact that insurance has gone back to the 1600s, I don't know if you guys realize that, but the first whole idea was that with the little bit of quirky knowledge that I have is the first set of insurance was a group of people that got together and paid for their own fire department. Did you know this, Sinar?
Yes, I did.
Yes, and I was like, okay, then how did this work? And they only put out fires to the people that paid the dues on those in those communities.
Yep, yep.
And then they got together and said, okay, wait, this isn't working out so good, blah, blah, blah. And fire and policies were developed.
Yep, and then farm policies were developed, and that's how Farm Bureau and farmers came along. They wanted to just insure farmers, and then from there it went to something bigger, and now they insure auto, home, life, and
And with realty, title, and insurance too, it's highly regulated.
Yes.
super.
With what I do in Michigan, there's absolutely no regulations. So this is something that we've been talking about. Make sure that whoever you hire as a home inspector is certified. They have insurance because they're not required to tell you this stuff. And it really is a wild west out there for what we do. And honestly, this is one of those professions where you absolutely get what you pay for. If you have a guy coming in going to do $150, you're going to get a $150 inspection. If you have a person coming in says it's going to be $400, you're going to get a $400 inspection. And oftentimes too, if you're able to negotiate, these things pay for themselves. I can usually help a client get anywhere between 5 and 25 times what they paid me in concessions. And so, definitely don't go with the lowest one. That is not your best option.
100% agree. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, kicking back off that, especially with insurance, make sure you're protected properly. So we don't just look for the lowest rate. That's always, that's one of the goals. If somebody does reach out to me, or if you send a client over to me, Michelle, but we also want to make sure we're protecting them properly. And by doing that, we kind of want to get to know the client. If they have children in the house, they have what type of dogs they have, how old their roof is, to make sure that if in the event of something happening, they're not shuffling around wondering what type of coverage they have. We did the due diligence in the beginning to make sure we protected them in case that worst case scenario occurs.
So I would sum this in conclusion. We're going to check, double check everything we do with home ownership, from insurance to inspections, and we're going to interview our people and make sure that we have a great portfolio of people to take care of us. Would you tend to agree with that one, huh?
Absolutely.
100%.
Well, thank you both for being here and taking time out of your busy day to be with me today.
Appreciate it. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.